All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the STEM Files. We are the voice of STEM talent and Black culture. I hope you enjoyed some much-needed family time last
That's
week,
right.
but we're back to the voice of STEM talent and Black culture. And tonight's guest is a return guest, Dr.
That's
Gladys
right.
Delancey-Bolding, molecular biology. She's going to be talking to us about her new book, some other amazing things that she has going on, and whatever we can, tap into tonight. So
Yes, sir.
definitely tap in for more after this, family. And as Jabril always says, that theme never gets old.
Never does.
It never gets old. All right, so first and foremost, family, we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name is Tariq Muhammad, aka Tariq Cardiac. I'm a biomedical research scientist with a concentration or background in cardiovascular pathobiology, which is the study of how diseases form in the heart and blood vessels. Joined by my right hand best friend, partner in righteousness, Jabril.
Yes, sir. What's goody in the hoodie family? Jabril Muhammad, aka Jabrillion Engineer. I am a civilian mechanical engineer focusing on naval ship fluid systems with a background in material science and engineering, the study of the various material classes and how their properties are impacted by their various structures. Happy to be here as always. Happy to get into tonight's topic and hear from our illustrious guests. Let's get it.
Right. And as my brother likes to remind me and the listening audience, tonight's show or any show, none of it is about us.
Nope.
It's always about the people we bring on the platform. And tonight's guest is a return guest. She's a phenomenal scientist, a Black woman in STEM, an author.
Come on.
She's a whole lot of. So we're going to get right into it. Dr. Delancey-Bolding, welcome back to the platform. How are you, man?
Thank you for having me, and I'm so happy to be returning.
Excellent. So we just want to get right into it. Tonight's episode is about writing the books that teach us science. When I say us, I mean who this platform is geared to. Everybody can watch it, but we want to encourage the Black and brown community to go into STEM. And it's important that the people that look like us are writing the materials that are for us.
Go ahead.
And I've always been an advocate for, Black educators and Black scientists teaching Black and brown children. So I'm excited for the topic of tonight's show. Can you first off give us a brief introduction of yourself, what area of STEM you represent, and why it's important that we see ourselves educating each other?
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, biology is my main focus. I'm with the focus on molecular biology.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I actually instruct college students, but I have Biolog Laboratorium, which is a STEM program for youth as young as 5 years old. And I also deal with college students, as you already know.
Right.
So I kind of cover the entire gamut. And I think that my experience on the college level pretty much prepared me for that and allowed me to actually whittle down the material to make it more digestible for younger children. And what was the other part of the question? I answered that.
Yes, ma'am. I think you answered everything.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay.
Right. Awesome. So, just going back into the topic, we're talking about writing the books that teach us science. Talk about the process first and foremost. Break down the steps for writing a book, especially an education-based book. What does that process look like?
Okay, so I definitely didn't have any experience. The only thing I knew about writing a book was based on what I would read in the book. So I actually used that, other books as my template. But what I did was inject my own content into it. But science is science no matter what, and it does evolve, but you still have to keep the content. I have to say that it was pretty challenging. At first, I felt like, I had like writer's block or something because I didn't know where to start. But actually, the publishing company that enlisted me to do the project, they really did help me through the process. And then what I found was that through the process, I wanted to make sure that I was doing it correctly. So I actually hired a research analyst. And when she saw the book initially, you know what she told me? She said, I would never make it out of your class. She said, you're writing from an expert's perspective. And she said, but the audience that you're trying to reach would never be able to make it out of your class. And so I was like, okay. So I had to get back to the drawing board. Yeah. But I thought it was very valuable information because she was absolutely correct. And so from her perspective, she said, I need to make it where it's more digestible. And she said, because you want your audience to understand what you're trying to convey. So from there, I worked with her almost on a monthly basis and had her look it over. And she was telling me, okay, you need to, even though, you have to use that lingo because science has its own lingo. However, I had to introduce it in layman terms and then bring in the lingo and define. What I was saying. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. That's crucial because, one of the reasons why science is so hard, quote unquote, to those who are first being introduced to it, especially in a high school setting, is because of how it's written and presented to the students.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Here you have, your research analyst being like, look, you can change the game, the textbook game, and really, present this in such a way where like any person, you don't even got to be interested in science, will pick this book up and be like, wow, this is dope. I understand this. I can actually, do something with this, so that's incredible, but I'm not going to bogart the program. Go ahead, beloved.
No, you all good, bro. I'm listening, taking it all in. Something that was so eloquently stated as you were talking, whenever we are trying to convey something, whether it be technically, whatever it is, whether it be for emotional response, for some type of critique, to get an answer, to have someone feel a certain way, we have to make sure that we're speaking to the audience in front of us. One of the things I love when we've had our brother Neil Thompson on from Teach the Geek, he talks about how important it is and how there's not always a lot of training for engineers and those in technical spaces to learn how to present. So when you're talking about making something digestible from the textbook perspective, that is a beautiful and very profound statement where it is you're speaking to the expert versus speaking to who your target audience is. Exactly. Whether you're in content creation, you're creating writing a poem, creating some level of art piece, it's only as good as the audience's ability to digest and interpret and feel the feels or do the call to action that you're trying to get them to do. So now it's so funny as I think about how me and Tariq in the Nation of Islam, we have in our lessons where it talks about we must speak the language and speak the language well. Because I can sound all profound and I can, talk to you about, how old something is and who I am and who you are. But if I can't get you to understand or meet you where you are, I'm just talking for the sake of talking.
Absolutely.
So that ability to make things digestible, make things palatable, are perhaps even more important than it being the most technically, superfluous, if you will. So I definitely appreciate that and am so happy that you incorporated that. One of the things I'd like to ask is when we talk about history and his story, and we know when we talk about stories, so it's one thing to tell our stories, but it's another thing to construct a text written in a way for us to unpack properly. Can you speak to the importance of knowing that Black people have always done well and have a history in STEM, and then also writing something in a way for Black people to understand the context of STEM?
Okay, so this was my approach to it. So first of all, the lingo was extremely important. Like, I said, you mentioned it and you expressed it well. I had to really break it down. And then what went along with that was the imagery. Okay. So, and also the stories. Okay. So let me give you an example. So in the chemistry chapter, I said, okay, let me find something that's relatable to our communities. So what I focused on there in the chemistry chapter, because chemistry is chemistry, you can't change that. But I used the Flint, Michigan scenario. So because there was lead in the water, you see, and I wanted people to see that what you experienced was science related and it was in your community. And then what I did was I added Moses West because he actually created a generator to provide clean water. So I spoke with him and I got his permission to use him because they need to see that, first of all, this is your community and it's related to science. And then this is an individual that looks like you, and he created something to make it, you know, where you could have fresh water. And then let me tell you about this other chapter. When it came to the cell chapter, okay, talking about cells, I talked about Henrietta Lacks. Now, everybody knows the story about Henrietta Lacks, but I went a little bit deeper. I wanted them to know that her cells, first of all, they're still being used today, and that they were very instrumental in creating the polio vaccine. Okay, they were testing those the viruses on her cells. Also, when it comes to radiation, all of that stuff is being tested on her cells. And there's a woman, I'm trying to think, Evelyn Marie Carmen, who's a Black woman who was very instrumental in working with those cells and helping to create polio. So again, showing them that this is something that was for the greater good for all. And this is what somebody who looked like them actually created or was involved in. So those are the type of scenarios that I use. And let me just say, I use all shades of people because we come in all different shades. That was very important to me. That was extremely important to me, as well as I have Latinx people in there as well. Okay, because they are people of color. And there's even a Mexican scientist who was instrumental in creating birth control. So I have him inside the book as well. So even though I made it digestible, science can be very abstract, okay? Especially if you're not accustomed to it. So imagery is extremely important. So there's a lot of images throughout the book, as well as subliminal messages. Like I may have something, okay, like we have issues in our community with obesity and diabetes and stuff like that. So when it came to the research chapter, I said, you know, which one of these would be a good hypothesis for research? And one of the, I guess the examples was, if I eat more plant-based food, I will lose weight quicker. So that's trying to trigger, you see what I'm saying? So it's really a compilation of a lot of different things, trying to get a message across in a very digestible way.
Absolutely. You know, I think that as a people, a lot of times, you know, we can sell ourselves and our stories short, or when it comes to entertainment or what we see around us, they're only showcased in a specific way. So we only see certain stories. So, but when you can relate things that may even be, you know, something that we need to work on, like the diabetes or what have you, in a way that we can learn from it and digest it and then move forward, it kind of shows the beauty in the nuance that is present in the Black community. One of the things that I was thinking about going from the hardcore sciences or the life sciences to mathematics is one of the things I noticed that children, and I'm gonna just say children, and then obviously I deal with a lot of Black children when I do tutor, is word problems tend to be tough. And this is from when you start mathematics through, if you're a PhD student in mathematics, it's something about word problems and being able to digest what you're reading. But how often do we find that it helps when they have a figure with the word problem, right? Or something with the word problem. So I can read this and oh, this is what this is. Or if we draw a figure out. So it's something to be said about the ability to read something, internalize it, and then see it in its glory physically that allows you to really digest that. So when you talk about making something very diverse and inclusive for our people, right? What we're really doing is getting back to the understanding that this has never been something we can't do. And it's always been something that has been prevalent in our lives. We just have to acquire that which we've lost and get that interest in our hands and everything, we'll move forward. So that was definitely very beautiful.
Absolutely.
So speak to, in addition to what you mentioned about making it like palatable, what was some of the most rewarding aspects of writing this book as a scientist? You know, you think about people being authors, but as a scientist, what was very rewarding going through this process, and what would you suggest or what advice would you give to anyone else who's trying to go down a similar path?
Well, what was rewarding for me thus far with it is the fact that I'm able to write from my perspective. That is, and let me just mention to you is I also have interracial couples in there as well, because I try to include society. You know, I even have Muslims with their jihadis on, because I want them to see that they're connected. So, you know, so I have a lot of that. But what I would recommend, I would definitely think, I would recommend that you definitely have someone to guide you through the process, because I'm telling you, there were times I had to, it was a challenge. So the fact that I had, like I said, I don't know how I came up with, let me hire this individual to look this over, but I'm so happy I did. It was worth the money and the time, because it was invaluable. But definitely you need a team to really guide you through the process. And that's exactly what the publishers did for me, as well as the research analyst. And she was separate from the publishing company. That's something I chose to invest in, because I wanted to make a real impact and make a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to kind of tease, you know, some more out of your mind, you know. So you work with the youth with the Biolog Laboratorium, and a lot of times we hear the quote, or we hear people say, the youth are the future, the youth are the future, the youth are the future. But I can't help but see and experience, as I'm moving through life, whether it's on social media, you got the new metaverse, and you got a lot of stuff going on. The youth, or those young in mind and spirit, seem to be the now. Can you explain from your perspective why the youth are more the now than they are the future, and what those of us, particularly in STEM, can do to make sure that they have a firm launch pad for the future as they move forward?
Okay, when you say the now, what do you mean by the now? Like
the present, like literally. When I hear sometimes the youth of the future, it's like there's some type of activation energy or wait time before, you know, the world becomes theirs. But you see a lot of young in mind and chronological age movers and shakers doing very real things right now. So is there some type of pivot in the mentality that we should have, whereas though we're equipping young people for being effective now, as opposed to always having the terminology be the future?
Well, I definitely think when it comes to STEM, that is applicable, that they need to be exposed to it extremely early. So that's why I believe in early intervention, because it's very difficult to change the path of a student once they reach college. They're already committed. They already have the barrier there. But if you can instill STEM in them, and let me just say, just because you are you decide to take STEM courses, it doesn't mean that you have to stay with STEM. The whole thing behind STEM is also to, I guess, introduce them to like critical thinking and analytical skills that could be used in any career field. So that's the thing about STEM. It's not that you have to stick with it, because, you know, the guy that just died, Ablo, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He actually had a civil engineering degree as well as an architectural degree, and he was a designer for Louis Vuitton. Okay. But my point is, he had the STEM degrees, but it helped prepare him for something that was non-STEM related. And he became this huge fashion designer icon. So it's really also, it's the skill sets that you're able to acquire and apply them in any field. So yeah, I think that they should be introduced to that at an early age.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then too, I think, you know, it's almost every day or every other day you'll come across a story on social media, 9-year-old, you know, create some invention, and it's like these young people, or young people 30s, 20s, teens, are really doing things that are having a real profound impact on our respective presence. Like we don't even have to go to the future for us to see how this is impacting us right now. Yeah. You think about, again, people love to talk about social media, like using this technology. You have young people who are literally becoming millionaires and doing and being able to like take care of themselves, their families, but also lead the charge in very real and new and innovative fields: automation, content creation, blockchain, artificial intelligence, so much stuff. And I'm like, I think that if we take the limiters off our minds and we really internalize the thought process that literally there's nothing more powerful than a made up mind. Like, I'm sure you've had this. I like with this book, with your book, right? And just follow me for a second. Like, as you're approaching something and you're really putting your heart and soul into something, you almost feel like there's nothing you can't do in that moment. There is nothing that can stop you but you. So like, you get to the point where it's like, I literally have this understanding that I'm the only one in my way, whether you're in your way at that moment or not. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the more you apply or put your nose to the plow and you continue to move forward, you're doing so many monumental things that you have to hold yourself down. Yeah. and like, it literally instantly humble, lest you go off on a tangent, you become someone you don't want to be. So I definitely think it's very important for that. So let's talk a bit more about the nitty gritty, right? This is the STEM files, right? We want to try to get some terms out the way. And I know we did this a bit more, but for people who are here for their first time, let's unpack cell and molecular biology, right? What are they in their essence, and what maybe either a day in the life of a cell or molecular biologist, or what can be some types of projects that those people work on?
Well, let me just say this. So mine is more on the academic side right now. Although I still do some labs, I do a lot of more of instruction when it comes to cell biology and genetics. Also teach anatomy and physiology to students who are pursuing careers in nursing. So from the academic perspective, I teach a whole lot of classes to a whole lot of students. And let me just say, with the cell biology, the reason why I chose that particular topic to do the book on is because that's a gateway class. So either students take it with us, the sequence of it, to fulfill their area for science, or they take it, the first part, to go into anatomy and physiology to pursue nursing. So I deal with a whole bunch of students. I'm always grading papers. I'm always having, I advise them sometimes, I have to meet with them, but a lot of it is mainly instruction. And that's basically what I do. And I really enjoy instructing students because I really think that I can break it down. So, and as far as like in the lab, when I was the lab supervisor, that's where I spent most of my time actually preparing the labs for faculty, doing a lot of gel electrophoresis experiments and stuff like that. But so right now it's really more academic. Now at Biolog Laboratorium, I'm doing more hands-on. Everything is hands-on because I think that's how people learn through hands-on. That's how they remember. And, I hear that from students, so I know it works. And let me just say, you were talking about all of the technology. I have a chapter that's in the cell biology and genetics book that's devoted to technology that they're using in science. Like you said, blockchain, that's becoming like a repository where they want to start putting patients' records, So that's another thing. Virtual reality, okay? They're using that in science so that they can get a closer look. Let's say if they want to do surgery on a patient. So they want to look at the organ and they want to see how they should approach it. We also have telemedicine now, especially since COVID. If it's not an emergency, you don't have to go in. Everything could be through the computer. And then we also have nanotechnology. That's a big thing where they are creating these little bots to actually go in and target cancer. So I have just one chapter just dedicated to all of the current 21st century technology that's being applied in science.
I hope everyone who is listening, who is watching, heard what the doc just said, right? So whether you're representing the S, the T, the E, the M in STEM, there's a reason why it spells out STEM and all the letters are so close to one another. It's because you can't really get away from what you're next to, right?
Absolutely.
In science, there's technology. In technology, there's
That's
mathematics.
Right.
In engineering, there's mathematics. There's science,
Exactly.
there's technology. So there has to be a healthy, whether it's rudimentary to proficient or advanced understanding of all the letters, regardless of which one you represent, right?
Absolutely.
It's funny, as you mentioned. So my younger brother is finishing up his last year at Howard University with getting a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and he's going to go on, inshallah, to get his doctorate, go into a doctoral program in nanotechnology. That's his goal.
Nice.
And
really nice.
One of the things that is so crazy when you talk about mechanical engineering and then you marry it with the biological sciences, now you're talking about how can I make a mechanical object, whether it's 10 to the minus ninth on a nanoscale, or microscale, whatever,
exactly.
not be targeted by the lymphocytes, neutrophils, macrophages of the body, as you kind of get it into the bloodstream, right? So now you have to make it be almost very similar to what's naturally in the body so that it can do its job, as opposed to be swarmed on and attacked. So that healthy marriage is so key.
Yeah, and let me just mention something about that. So what they're actually doing with nanotechnology now is that if a person has cancer, what they're doing is they're getting the genetic information from that cancer cell, and then they're equipping that nanobot with that information so it can specifically target that cancer. Now, it doesn't work for everybody because sometimes, cancer has a tendency to mutate. So you can't keep, once it mutates, it changes. So they can't keep changing the bot. That's dangerous to the patient. But that's definitely something that they're doing, and that's nanotechnology. And, and there's a lot of different things, like even machine learning, what they're doing in science now. They want to aggregate all of this data from all these patients. And so if a patient comes in, and they say, I have these symptoms, they put it into a computer, and then the computer tells them, okay, well, this is a diagnosis. So that's where we're at. Yeah. So that technology is the foundation for everything now. Science is progressing because of technology.
Absolutely. And the last thing I'm going to say, I'm going to turn it back over to my bro, Tariq, is you start to see how the more skilled you are, and I'm not going to say necessarily the more degrees you have. I'm going to be very specific and surgical with what I say. The more hard and soft skills you have, the farther you will go in this ever-changing society and world. You just mentioned how you will put a series of symptoms in a machine that will then output a diagnosis. Well, who's going to fix the machine when the machine breaks?
There you go. Right?
That's the job. Who's going to create the machine and have the ins and outs? Who's going to sell the machine? Who's going to create content to promote the machine? Who's going to do all these things? So we're in a world where people want to know more now than ever. Can you do this versus are you lettered?
Exactly.
I'm going to say that one more time. Can you do this versus are you lettered? I'm going to turn it over to Tariq.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. First and foremost, I want to apologize for my absence off the screen. I had to take care of something. But what didn't you say? Like what did I miss?
What didn't I say? Oh, we talked about so much.
We did.
All right. So much. Right, I saved your part for you. I'll just say that.
Okay. Good. Before I get into that, I want to first and foremost thank the viewing audience for supporting the step files the way you have, all the likes, the shares, the comments, the social media flooding. We have successfully made it to 1,000 subscribers. Now, Jabril and I don't really care about this kind of stuff. We're just so busy wrapped up in the actual purpose of the show. But when you reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, they let you monetize things. So that's the only reason we even announcing this and sharing this joy with our audience. But thank you so much to everyone who has been with the STEM Files since day one, since the blog talk days in 2016, all the way now to YouTube and Facebook and any platform you can find us on, really. But we definitely will be reaching all your podcasts we'll definitely be tapping into wherever you get your podcasts, Google Play, iTunes, I think, Spotify.
Yeah, Anchor, all that.
Right,
awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Definitely be tapping in with y'all on that. So I wanted to get into something that's a little bit off topic from what we are here for tonight, and that is the coronavirus. Now, we're not going to get too political. We're not going to talk about what your views on the vaccine is, not like that. But we wanted to get a clear understanding of what a variant is. Now, I am going to be blessed with speaking on the coronavirus and its variant this Sunday at our mosque meeting. But I wanted the listening audience on the STEM files to hear from another scientist as well what a variant is, what Omicron is, or whatever they want to call it. Why do these variants where do these variants come from, and why do they name them after certain letters in the Greek alphabet? So if you can, just kind of give us a breakdown of that.
Yeah, I can give you an idea. First of all, let me just say that I'm not a microbiologist, but I do teach some microbiology in, parts of my cell biology and genetics course. But basically what it is that you can have a virus that has a specific genome, and that's the genetic information. We all have genetic information. And what will happen is the viruses have a tendency to mutate. And let me just say that we interact with viruses all the time. We eat them, we touch them. The only time we hear about them is when they become a problem. Okay.
Yep.
But so what happens is
Right.
this is just a natural thing that a virus does. It mutates. So that means its genome changes. Okay. So once it changes, because the vaccines are based on the genomes that they have collected. Now, once it changes, that means that they have to see, will this vaccine work on this change in this virus? Okay.
Right.
So with this new one, the Omicron, what's happening is that it has mutated, if I'm not mistaken, like over 30 times. Okay, so that means it has just gone crazy. Now, they really don't know whether this vaccine is going to work. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not sure that it will, because the vaccines are based on the other mutations. But if you think about it, the flu, okay, the flu changes all the time. They have a vaccine for it, but it also mutates, right? And what happens is what they give you with the flu shot is a cocktail of the different viruses. That's basically what it is, And so if it changes, that means that it will not work. So maybe so far, since they're still using that particular flu shot, it's probably effective, but that can change as well. And once they find out that it has changed, they can add it to the cocktail, So this Omicron, the jury's still out on that. They really just don't know. You have people testing to find out whether the vaccine is going to be effective. So they really don't know about it. So, and we're learning a lot. Everybody doesn't know all the answers to COVID. You know where the information comes from? The information comes from the patients, the ones who have contracted COVID. That's where they're gathering all their research. So anybody, just like if you're taking the vaccine, you're a guinea pig. That's just the reality of it. So they're learning from the people.
You heard it here first on the STEM file.
No, it's just the truth.
Yes. Hey,
I don't mean to discourage people. Let me be clear.
Absolutely not.
I did take the vaccine. I just want to be clear. I did, because I looked at the benefits versus the risk. Okay. And so that's why I took it. But everybody makes their own decision.
Right. And
all I want to say real quick, bro, to that point is what I was saying is, truth is the ultimate authority. So regardless whether you took it or you did not, you told the truth. So like I said, we're here at the STEM files to make sure that people are getting the truth and the unadulterated truth while they're enjoying the content. So I appreciate what you said. I appreciate that breakdown.
It's just, and I'm being honest, and people are taking it in a negative way when I say that, because I've said it before, but I'm not discouraging anybody. People have to make their own choice. But the reality is we all are guinea pigs. And let me tell you how I made my decision. First of all, when I saw that they had to give it to the nurses and the doctors, because most of them have to take it because they're working with patients. And I saw that they weren't falling dead. So I said, okay, so I guess it may be okay. That's what I based it on. I watched them for a while to make sure that they were still around. And so that's how I made my decision.
Got it. And we can definitely respect, and we appreciate the fact that you made that disclaimer real quick before you even, went into detail of what what your stance was on the vaccine, that everybody has a choice.
Go ahead. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
has the right to decline or accept any form of medical treatment.
Go ahead.
It doesn't matter if it's a vaccine. It doesn't matter if it's a nutraceutical. I have the right. Point blank. You know. So I'm glad you expounded upon what a variant is. And what is it? 34 minutes in. So let's go ahead and take a little break real quick. Jabril, can you? Well, I'm gonna go ahead and play the video about what the final call is, and then can you tell us what this week's issue is about?
Of course.
All right, let's go ahead and play that.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
Beautiful. And for those who are unaware, the Final Call newspaper is a newspaper that is published weekly by the Nation of Islam. It's one of our products that we offer to the community, and it's Black owned. So that being a Black owned and being a trusted source of information is enough for me. So Jabril, if you can, go ahead and tell the audience what this week's issue is about.
Absolutely. Family, again, the Final Call newspaper, a message dedicated to the resurrection of the Black man and woman in America and the world. Our latest issue, a measure of justice, the long road traveled in the Ahmaud Arbery murder trial, how the bravery, faith, and love of a Black mother resulted in the convictions of 3 whites who stalked, trapped, and murdered her son. Family, for those we know, we've been following this nationally. There's a number of articles in here that are going into additional detail on the trial, what came out, things leading up to it. We highly encourage you to follow Final Call newspaper on all social media platforms to stay tapped in on when the newest edition comes out. Go to finalcalldigital.com to sign up and get your digital edition. And also, for those local to either the Philadelphia area for myself or the Richmond, Virginia area for my brother Tariq, and you want to get your physical edition as well. I know some of us still like to highlight, get the little pin and cross certain things out, circle certain things. You can definitely get it week to week, and you can DM us for more information. But this is your local, national, and a national source of unadulterated truth and good information, obviously Black owned and operated as well. So I got mine. Make sure you get yours, the Final Call newspaper.
That's right. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. I want to go back to something you said about the variants. There was a word I wanted to clear for the audience, and that's genome. So can you explain what the genome is in a cell or in any living organism?
Okay, so basically,
it's important.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
You said why it's important. Why is what is important? Why is what important?
Is it important in understanding how viruses mutate?
Okay, well, first of all, when I say the genome, I'm talking about your genetic makeup. So that's your DNA, and that's inside your nucleus. Okay, and just about every living organism, all living organisms have DNA. So it's funny because humans can have mutations as well. Okay, and usually that leads to some type of disorder. And when I say disorder, I'm talking about some type of condition. Let's say, for example, sickle cell anemia. Okay, that's due to 2 recessive genes. Okay, that was inherited, one from each parent to the child. Okay, so there was some type of mutation that took place. So it happens in us as well. But it can't be extreme. We wouldn't survive. So, but when it comes to the virus, that's just the nature of it. That's just what it does. So this is not anything that's uncommon. I think that 30 times it sounds a bit extreme, but it's anything is possible. That's one thing I say when it comes to science. I always tell my students, I don't like to make blanket statements and say it's only this way, because although it could be 95% that way, there's always a small percentage that is not. So I'm very cautious when it comes to science because it's always evolving. So this is probably something that may be new to them, that it has mutated this amount of time. But again, like I said, they're doing the research on it and nobody really knows the answer. Not yet.
Right. And in your professional opinion, what do you think were some of the things that we did as a society to contribute to the variants in the spread?
Yeah, I think first of all, people need to wash their hands. That's the main reason why.
Woo!
Yeah, no, you have to. That is the main reason. That things are passed from person to person.
Come on.
Another thing is, now that we're dealing with this situation, you really need to wear a mask. If you're amongst a bunch of people, you really need to protect yourself as well as other people. And those, to me, are the main suggestions. So without even including, about taking the vaccine or anything, but if you do those two things, you can really reduce the chances of somebody contracting that virus.
And this is so. Oh, go ahead, bro.
Mama Bolden told y'all to stop being nasty. Stop being nasty. All right. I'm tired of walking in the men's room and still seeing y'all walk out without washing your hands. You're nasty.
No.
All right.
But no,
come on, man.
It's crazy when you think about the simple things you can do. We up here talking about vaccines, this, that, and the third, but we can't even so much as do the simple things, and we just want to dump our bodies with things that we don't even know anything about. But it's important that we just master the basics.
Exactly.
Just go ahead and stop by this sink. You ain't
go ahead, talk about it.
But I don't think that if people were doing what they were supposed to do, then we wouldn't have to worry about the vaccine. You see what I'm saying?
Come on.
If you think about it, right? So, but those are habits that have to be formed early.
Yes.
So you have to start with children and teaching them that you must wash your hands, and then they will grow up doing that. And that's one thing, I realized. But of course, a habit can be changed. But however, sometimes, people are not willing to change. So how that is.
The way that SARS-CoV-2 is mutating, we have a responsibility in that. Like
absolutely,
have to take
Well, think about this. When we were, when everybody was masked up, like I think it was last year, during flu season last year, the flu was eliminated because people were washing their hands and they were wearing masks.
Come on.
So that tells you right there that it works.
I would just say, I have to say something. Like one of the things that's baffling to me, baffling maybe is the wrong word, but like when we hear about E. coli outbreaks, I said, we just nasty. Like, it's just what it is. You don't get that if you have sanitized environments.
Right.
But people are cutting corners.
Yep.
And touching things they had no business, touching your fruits and your produce and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and doing things that a lot. And then, you hear people say, well, people talk about building your immune system and eating better, but you can't have all these people do that. It's too hard to do that. So get a vaccine. And that's the problem, because we want Band-Aids and we don't want to fix the source code.
Exactly.
If you will.
Exactly.
So at what point is there going to be a national mandate or national movement to eat, I don't know, more oranges? Who's going to talk about vitamin C? Like, my thing is, people like to talk about and relegate the building your immune system talk to, zealots and extremists on social media, when it's facts, but it's things that people don't want to hear or don't want to do.
Yeah.
Or don't respect because it's not coming from a lettered individual or some institution.
That's true.
Right? Mm-hmm. So we have to understand is we got to get back to understanding if it's true, it's true. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. One teacher may say 7 + 0 is 7. The other one might say 2 + 5 is 7. It's still 7.
Yeah,
but we arguing because we don't have that other teacher's way of thinking or ideology.
Right.
Well, but can we be independent thinkers and get to that point? But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Doctor.
No, I was going to say the mandate really should be wash your hands. That should be the mandate. Seriously, it really should be. We should start there, but we're far beyond that.
So you do it.
Tariq, I'm calling it now. We're gonna get some. This is gonna be one of the STEM file shirts. It's gonna be wash your hands. On the back, it's gonna say y'all nasty.
Right.
Yeah. Wash your hands on the back door so y'all nasty.
Blur out my face.
No. And then in the corner, your friends from the STEM files. That's exactly what it's going to say. That's exactly what it's going to say.
Yeah, but yeah, so yeah.
All right, we got a question.
We do have a question.
It's
Okay.
from last week. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
2 weeks ago, before the holiday. This is O'Neill Barnaby from the Black Math Academy. He's wondering how much math you use in molecular biology.
You definitely use a lot of math. Math is actually used in everything. Seriously, it really is. But we do a lot of stuff with micropipettes and stuff like that. So we're using really, really small quantities. But math is pretty much a part of everything. It really is.
For sure. And I've been witness to that, being in the lab and doing anything.
Exactly. Oh yeah, because we're doing solutions and everything. You have to, know how to put those solutions together. Exactly. So math is very involved in bio. Yeah.
That was one of the things. And this ain't no shade on math, but that was one of the things I disliked about when I first started out in high school and learning about different types of laboratory techniques and the math that goes into that. That was the part I really didn't like. I just wanted to, deal with the reagents and isolate stuff and extract stuff. I didn't want to deal with the math, but in order for me to get what I needed to get in the right amounts and the right quantities and have the desired effect I wanted on whatever substance I was working on, I had to know the math.
Yeah.
So
may I ask something really quickly? So I think if we could get a little more specific, I do know Anil is a mathematician, and when you think about the math involved in molecular biology, are we talking about things like statistics, calculus, algebra, like proportions, measurements? If you had to maybe put some of the major mathematical principles or areas that you encounter in molecular biology, what would some of those be?
I think it's more proportions. That's what I think, because it's a lot of, I'm making solutions, micropipetting into wells for gel electrophoresis. So you're looking more at, proportions, because, you're working with, because you think about it, if you're using a sample of DNA, right? And then you add cyber gold. So you have to know the proportions, the ratio of how much to put in to that sample. So it's more of that. I'm trying to think of, I think it's more of that, because even when we make solutions and stuff like that, you have to know the proportions. Like when we do the buffers and stuff, it's like a 9-to-1 ratio or something like that. So it takes that particular form, at least the part that I work with.
Awesome.
And that's a perfect segue to the Instagram tapping, the social media tapping, really, because the picture we have from your Instagram is you, dealing with a pipe.
There you go. Yep, that's it.
Those are microcentrifuge tubes.
Yep.
And doing, whatever. Matt, let me just ask you that. What were you doing?
Well, actually, so I was making some DNA samples for gel electrophoresis. That's exactly what I was doing. So you can see when you're dealing with a micropipette, you're dealing with very small quantities. And I'm talking about as small as like 10 microliters. That is extremely small. And then just preparing them for an experiment that the instructors were going to do with the students.
Right, absolutely. And this was what was this a particular project you were working on, or were you just kind of showing some students some things?
Actually, I was preparing it just for for faculty to use with their students.
Got it. Okay, wonderful. Yeah. So what in your field, and then I want to get into the company Biolog Laboratorium. In your field, what has been the most exciting thing you've done in molecular biology so far?
That's a good question. The most exciting thing I've done. I can't think of one particular thing. I do like, I'll tell you, I enjoy showing those techniques to students. And then when they see it, they really are amazed by it, because seeing it fluoresce under the transilluminator and everything. So I like when they see it, the excitement of seeing something like that, when we actually, because we do like a forensic science type thing. And what it is that they have to find out who committed a crime. And we use the DNA samples to determine that. And so that's the part that I truly like about, when I'm working with the students with it.
Dope. Jabril, you got anything?
You know, as we talked about so much, and I'm really trying to. It's times like this, you know, and I think about all of our past shows, and I think about in the show. Sometimes you just have to take a step back, and you hear the wealth of information coming from our guests, and it's just awe-inspiring. Like, you know, Tariq, you know, I'm not in the life sciences, so whenever we have a life science guest, you know, I pick up a little something here or there, and I see more than anything. Even in life, there's mechanical, systemic aspects to things, to how things join on to one another, bond, move around. So I see the life engineering, if you will.
There we go.
You know,
Yes,
and it's so like it's so dope to really see. Again, one of the things we were talking about is when you think about STEM, you know, even if you represent one particular letter, you have to have some level of understanding or requisite knowledge in the other three.
Absolutely.
To really be as successful as you can be in that one. So one of the things I would like to ask is, as you are moving forward in this, you know, ever-changing COVID environment, and we continue to move beyond this environment into a next phase, what are your goals and aspirations for the Biolog Laboratorium? How would you like to see that grow? Do you have any immediate goals or things you're working toward now, and how is that looking for you?
Well, I'm looking forward to working with you guys, doing the masterclass, the biotechnology masterclass. I'm really looking forward to doing that. I'm excited about it. I really am. You know, awesome. Because those are, you know, when you're doing biotechnology, you're preparing them, you're giving them a skill set. And, and, you know, a lot of times people don't realize when you're doing these different things, even like when I'm working with youth. Right now, I'm working with a couple of youth, and I'm doing it virtually, but I provide them with the kit, and they're learning microscopy. But these are skill sets that can be transferable, or, you know, prepare them for something more. So, yeah, so that's the next big project for me. I'm looking forward to working with you guys.
Awesome.
Right. Awesome. And just to kind of add some more to that, we're going to be starting that in January 2022. It'll now, for this particular session, it'll only be available for students in the Atlanta area, surrounding areas, the College Park, you know, your Riverdale, anything in the Atlanta area. And we're going to be when they're done, in this masterclass, and I'm going to try to break this down as much as I can. In the masterclass, they're going to be learning about biotechnology and the principles of biology with Dr. Bolding, and then after they're done learning about these different types of principles and biological labs, then they're going to come to us, and we're going to show them the intellectual property side of whatever they learn. So say, for example, right, somebody learns about vaccines, or learns about how cells respond to vaccines. Then they come to us and they say, okay, I want to create a vaccine, but it's an edible vaccine, it's plant-based, and it's safe. We would help them along the lines of creating a product like that after they learn what they need to know with Dr. Bolding. So this masterclass is not only a milestone for Biolog Laboratorium, but a milestone for Original Man Scientific. And we definitely appreciate the partnership that you've allowed us to have with you. And we definitely look forward to working with you. Jabril, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I would like to add.
Go ahead, yes, ma'am. No, go ahead.
Just like I'm looking forward to introducing them to CRISPR. Now, are you familiar with CRISPR?
Yeah, I love CRISPR.
Yeah, so there's a CRISPR-like experiment that they can also do where they're actually going to knock out a gene in bacteria, and they can see whether that bacteria is going to still secrete whatever pigment it is, or what would naturally happen if you knock out that gene. It would not happen. So I'm excited about that too, because that falls under the same realm.
That's right, absolutely, and those are the kind of techniques and tools that they can use to develop products, biologics, nutraceuticals, vaccines, whatever life science product you can think of, they'll be able to produce because they learned how to do it through you, and they'll be in good hands. You know, they'll have the prerequisite education, but they won't, quote unquote, like my brother said, be lettered, but they have the know-how, and that's really all it takes.
Absolutely. So
I'm full of even though I was gone for about a good 10 minutes, I'm full of life from this interview. Jabril, want to add something?
I just want to say, Bro, is this how you feel on the engineering shows?
Yes. Hold on, let me say this. When you're building with them, and I'm just sitting back with a mental notepad, just taking down information. I feel what you felt when it comes to seeing the similarities in engineering when it comes to life sciences. So it's definitely a lot of life science principles and things that you can see in engineering. Mm-hmm. So trust me, I feel the same way. But yes, this is how I feel.
I'm like, cause I'm literally trying to hang on. I'm hanging on to every term. I said, all right, boom. And I'm telling you, I know Tariq can tell you. I'll be dropped. I like you. He can tell, or you can tell. I hope I've matured enough throughout the shows where I'll pick up a couple of life science terms. Right. I kind of throw a couple things in there. I'm not an expert by any means, but I know a little something.
That's good. It's always good to add to your repertoire of knowledge, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And then check this out. I'm working with some students at the college. I'm teaching the integrated science course, and these are students that are interested in being elementary school teachers. And so what we're doing, the problem with that, okay, when you have elementary school teachers, most of the time, I'm not making a blanket statement, they usually don't have a strong STEM background. So in this particular course, what I had to do was strengthen their science knowledge as well as teach them how to teach kids. And so I introduced them to a lot of technology. Like they were looking, doing virtual reality, the metaverse, with the what do you call those I forgot what you call those, the Oculus. Yeah. And interacting, so that's the thing. You have to get those teachers, to be able to convey that information, and they have to go beyond their knowledge. They have to be creative, and that's something that was quite challenging for me this semester. But I think that they did pretty good. The teachers that I work with, well, they're not teachers, but they're students preparing to be teachers, and it was a different approach I used, and I think that it was pretty successful. They were very pleased with, what they learned.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to add as we close, and that was the quickest hour I think ever. Like that was insane. I would say a good teacher, regardless of the discipline, teachers are some of the best scientists in the world. If you think about it, the ability to curate a classroom experience is very similar to like designing an experiment.
Right.
You hypothesize this may work, this may not. How can I put things together so that it can be digestible, so that they can not only get good grades, but love this particular subject, and then know how to, design something specific for this student that may be an audible learner, or this student that may be a visual learner. And this, like, to be a good teacher, you have to be a scientist. You have to learn how to dissect your classroom and get to understand your audience, which is your subjects, which are your students, and then be able to design an experience for them that gets the most out of them in the long haul. And I think the more teachers that understand and internalize that fact, the more successful the teaching industry will be across the board. And I think that's what I'll end it on, and then we can kind of get ready to close out, bro.
Yeah, totally agree. And it's cool that you are able to be a scientist and an educator, because like Jabril said, in order for you to properly be a teacher, you have to know science. Not know science, excuse me. They're the best science. And our scientists essentially in what they do. And since you are already a trained scientist, you already are equipped with how to break things down before you even made the decision to teach anybody. So
absolutely,
it's very it's crucial. Like Jabril said, it's crucial that the educator can be scientific and that the scientist can educate. So it's a beautiful thing when those two come together. But it's 9 o'clock. We usually cap off the show about I'm thankful for turning back to the STEM files. It's been an honor. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with before we close out?
I don't have anything in particular. I just hope that let me say this. I hope that they learn something from this conversation. So I hope that they're leaving this conversation with more than what they came in with. I tell my students that all the time.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
That's how you have an effect on somebody if they've learned something in your presence. So
absolutely.
Wash your hands. Wash your hands.
Exactly. Matter of fact,
wash your hands.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. It was great coming back here again. I look forward to working with you too.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We as well. And for those who would like to follow us on social media, get to know us more, and familiarize themselves with our content, at Tariq Cardiac, at Jabrilian Engineer. Follow us at the STEM Files on Instagram and Twitter, and the STEM Files on Facebook and YouTube. We are now on TikTok as well.
Hey,
so you're gonna see Jabril doing some backpack dances to some engineering concepts real soon.
Hey.
And so follow us on TikTok as well at the STEM Files. So thank you all for tuning in. Jabril, any last words?
Family, it's been an honor, a privilege. Y'all know me, like, as much as I love to run my mouth, I love to hear people talk about the sciences, and we get a thorough understanding on this show how not only we are Black in STEM, but how Black is STEM, always has been. So family, I love and appreciate y'all. Yeah. Oh, Brother O'Neal, Black Math Academy, you just don't know. You just don't know. I get down a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Your brother got some sauce to him, okay? Just let you know, I got a little bit of drip to it, okay? We're going to talk about that on the other end. But anyway, we love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Continue to tune in the following weeks. We back at it every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The voice of STEM talent in Black culture, where we highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Jabrilian Engineer, Tariq Cardiac, the STEM Files family. Love y'all.
Love y'all. Thank you for
tuning in.
Take care now.